Welcome, everyone, to the newest episode of our podcast series, Ready, Set, Rewatch, a show where we go back and take a look at movies, TV shows we love, maybe a few that we hate. My name is Skyler, and with me, as always, is my co-host slash best friend, Daniel. Daniel, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to fight aliens between boulders that we definitely haven't seen before.
How fast are you going to fight them? Are you going to
So
fight them very
slow.
fast or very... Okay,
So slow.
slow.
I'm going to fight them as slow as
Slow.
possible because that will confuse them.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good. And then we're going to go back in time. Let's
Yes.
keep watching Star Trek, the original series. Let's do it. Let's get into episode... What episode is this? 19?
It depends on who you ask.
Oh,
IMDb
my
says
goodness.
one thing and Paramount says another because one counts the Cages episode 1 and the other counts the Cages episode 0. So depends on, it's either 18 or 19, depending on how you feel.
All right. Either way, the next episode we're talking about is Arena.
Arena. This is I'll just level with you. I don't think this is a bad episode by any means. I was a little disappointed by it because this is
Well,
one of the episodes that I have a lot of history with, despite never watching
yeah.
any Star Trek, because it is spoofed everywhere. And it was what we talked recently on recap about our favorite TV shows. This was an episode that they did a MythBusters episode about, specifically about the canon that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Ooh,
And
cool.
so I knew a
looking-
lot about this episode going in, and it's not, like I said, not bad, but it was not as exciting as I thought that it was going to be based on the way people were talking about it.
I'm looking forward to hear if that myth was busted.
I actually don't remember, but I should look it up.
This is one of the episodes that is the most famous. This is like up there with the Tribble episode, where people are like, I know Tribbles, and Kirk fights the lizard, and maybe the people even remember the lizard is called the Gorn.
The Gorn.
Even though, I mean, the conflicts with the Gorn in this is a big part of it, but it becomes almost secondary to something else.
Yeah.
I think both episodes we're talking about in today's discussion they're both kind of 50-50 to me, where there's parts of it where I really like, and there's other parts where I'm just not vibing so much with.
Yeah, I think I have a similar feeling. So
But yeah, let's jump into this first one.
Arena starts with them landing on a planet, or not landing, hovering above a planet called Cestus 3. Kirk and Bones are talking about a friend they have called the Commodore, who's apparently really famous for his hospitality, and he's got really great food, and everyone's like super excited to beam down and have a great meal. And then the Commodore calls out, and it calls up, and he requests for them to send their tactical squad down. And he's like, everything's great, come on down, bring your best shooters, basically. And so a team of Kirk, Spock, Bones, and 3 people whose names I didn't write down, so I just wrote red, yellow, and blue, beam on down to the planet.
Yeah, before they beam down, Spock raises a point where he's like, this is weird, right? Like, is anyone else concerned about why we're being asked to bring down a tactical squad? And I think Kirk and Bones are both like, shut up,
Shut up, Spock.
idiot. Commodore's cool, and he has cool food.
He's going to give us cheeseburgers with the cheese inside the burger.
Spock's like, all right, I guess.
All right, dog. That's all you had to say. So they beam on down to the planet, and it's all blown up. The outpost of Cestus 3 has been utterly destroyed. Kirk sends Yellow and Blue off to look for survivors, and then they go, and about 5 steps away from where they already were, they see a guy who is like about to die from radiation burns. He's basically right next to where they beam down, and they're like, oh, damn.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Well, they knew about where they needed to beam down.
Spock finds... They're talking for a little while, and then Spock picks up other life forms on his tricorder, and he said, they're not human, they're cold-blooded. And then they basically immediately...
Sounds like my ex-wife.
I guess. And then they basically immediately open fire and vaporize the red shirt.
Oh, yeah, red shirt down.
There we go, we got him.
Should have known.
Kirk calls for them to get beamed up, but the ship is also under attack, so they can't, because they have to like put up their deflectors. So now we've established that if the ship is in combat, it shouldn't be able to teleport guys, I guess. So I'll make sure to remember that for when they forget about it in a couple episodes, undoubtedly.
This is, well, I think for the most part, that is a tried and true rule. One of my factoids I have here. This is the first episode to officially establish that.
Okay. So they all get shot on. They start running for cover. And they carry the injured man. They basically just hoist him and run behind some pillars. And the Kirk tells the other two people whose names I didn't bother to write down to fan out and get an angle on him, and then we don't see him again for a while. And Kirk and Spock start talking about. It's worth noting this entire time there's just like mortars striking around them.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty decent
Lots.
effect. I mean, considering what we're used to in this show of rented ice capades, rabbit costumes, like it looks good. They built the whole set for this, I guess. There's like a
Oh
blown up
yeah, yeah.
outpost
Well,
and they're setting off bombs.
it feels like, well, this particularly feels like a backlot.
Yeah.
They famously shot all the Gorn fight stuff later in a national park. I don't remember which one. I always say if we were better at our jobs, we would be able to say. But this to me feels like kind of just a desert backlot thing. I'm not sure entirely.
I did find out after the fact that the Shore Leave episode was filmed in Yosemite. So it's possible that this was also filmed there.
Makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know if these were actually filmed near each other, but yeah, I would assume.
Probably mostly
yeah,
around this area.
You would think so. Kirk asks Spock if he knows where the outpost's arsenal is, and then he makes a run for it. And then an explosion goes off real close to him when he's running, and he does a pretty goofy combat roll.
He does a roll, and then he gets back up on his feet, but the explosion clearly like rang his bell, so he goes back down.
Yeah, he
what a flip. I also want to say a second ago before he does this, Kirk mentions like, I hope the ship's okay or something like that, and Spock says like Sulu is a decorated fighter, like he can handle the ship.
Sulu's
and Kirk's
good.
like, shut up, Spock, it's my ship.
Yeah, I should be there.
It's like Spock's just trying to make you feel better.
Yeah,
he's not saying that Sulu's got to keep the ship.
I did also put here, Kirk calls up to Sulu and starts telling him like how to shoot the guns, and it's like, Kirk, you're not on the ship. Just let them handle it.
Let Sulu do it.
Yeah.
And if Sulu can't handle it, maybe the guy sitting directly next to Sulu can handle it.
Yeah, we've never seen him before. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about him later.
We've never seen him before.
And
I don't think he says a single word.
He might not. So he calls up and he tells Sulu, he's like, shoot the guns, do the gun shooting, and it doesn't work. So then he's like, okay, run away. And he tells the Enterprise to warp out of the area so it can't get destroyed, I guess. Mm-hmm. Then Spock runs over to where Kirk is, which is in a little hole. And Kirk has found a mortar of his own and a collection of what I wrote are either water balloons or the Gungan Boombas. What are they called? The Boombo? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Boomas.
The Boomas.
I said they were going to shoot bath bombs at him.
It does kind of look like that. Spock says that they locked onto his tricorder, which is now like smoking, and so he throws it, and then it immediately gets hit by a mortar. So I guess
in my notes I have. Well, no, is that what happened?
Because that's what he says.
In my mind, I thought, like, Jesus Christ, tricorders explode. Like,
no. Yeah,
I thought it was the same as the phasers.
I guess they were able to track where he was using the tricorder, but then it's weird because it's already smoking. So I'm like, something's going wrong with it. I don't know, man. I don't know.
And then he just pitches it over a mound, and it as soon as it lands, it blows up. So yes, either it is more likely they've locked onto it and they just hit it with a mortar.
Yeah.
Or how I initially interpreted it is it got damaged and he's like, oh, this thing's busted, throws it, and then it just explodes.
Yeah, which would be hilarious. Honestly, I kind of hope that's what it was. Kirk calls over Blue, who says that Yellow died.
Oh, they got him.
Screen. Oh, they got him.
His name was Lang.
Neato.
I don't remember the red shirts guy name, but his name was Lang.
It don't matter. He died so fast. They shoot the mortar at the enemy, and there's a really big flash, and then Sulu's like, hey, they left. He's like, they beamed them up. They're gone now. So we never see any of these enemies at any point.
So not only do they, when they shoot the little bath bomb thing, the Gungan Boomas, were you expecting it to be that big? It was like almost
Are you kidding me?
Thermonuclear. It like rocked the planet.
It was launched at a distance where because it was implied at one point that they couldn't, the Gorn couldn't get a clear shot of them because there's like a hill, and that Spock implied at least that they were shooting over the hill to hit them.
Yeah.
So he must have fired back, and then somehow it hit on the other side of the hill, and the flash was so bright that it whited out the screen.
Yeah, it was.
Like,
There's one
that's
quick
insane.
line. There's one quick line where someone says like, "This is gonna be a little too close for my liking," and then they just shoot it, and
Yeah,
it's massive.
it's it's truly insane. Kirk orders a medical staff to beam down and start searching for survivors here, but he's like, I'm going to take the ship and we're going to track these down. So I guess they just kind of leave a bunch of people on this planet during the rest of this episode.
Yeah, it's fine.
Back up on the Enterprise, they talk to the injured man who says that they got attacked. And it's like, yeah.
Clearly,
And that they never expected it because they don't have anything that anyone would want to take.
we're just little boys. We're just little men. Why would they attack us?
And they tried to surrender and told them like, hey, please don't kill us. We have women and children here, which I will bring up again later at the end of this episode. And they just killed them all anyway. Kirk asks about the message that they got to bring down a tactical team, and the dude's like, we didn't do that. Like, we didn't call. We got blown up like a day ago. I
Yeah.
don't think we can even send a message right now.
So they come to the rightful conclusion that it was a fake message, which I guess are very easy to make in this universe because the Enterprise has fallen for it like 3 times now.
Yeah. And I think it's weird. I don't think that makes sense for this episode, given what we find out later. Like, why would the Gorn want to attract more people? You know what I mean?
I think, well, I might be reading between the lines here, but I think it's just like we call back any of more people that are in the area that might belong to this base or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe. They go to Kirk's office, and he declares that this is an invasion. He's like, the Gorn, they don't know what they're called yet, but they're like, they invaded. And Spock says that they need to destroy the Gorn ship before it gets back to wherever it's going, in order to, I don't know, stop war or something. He doesn't specify, but it's just like, we need to kill them before they get home.
Yeah.
So they speed up and power up all their battle stations. And Kirk's like, this isn't a drill. And we're just chasing the ship for a little while. And we go to the bridge, and we see there's a new navigator called DePaul, and it's just Pike.
Yeah.
It is Pike, Captain Pike from The Cage. It is the same guy who I guess
it's-
couldn't get back to play his own character, but now he's just a barely named navigator.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, does DePaul ever come back? The answer is no.
Oh,
So he's this guy. Oh, what's his name? Oh, wait a minute. Hold the fort. Hang on. We're learning new information live on the podcast right now.
his name is Sean Kenny.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I was a little confused, I suppose, in telling you because yeah, you notice you sent me the message. You were like, "Is that Pike?"
Yeah,
Because he's just sitting there.
because that's
and
just
it
Pike. He's just sitting at
looks
the
exactly like
table.
Yeah. The answer is yes,
Okay.
but remember how we talked about that it wasn't the same Pike in the wheelchair when he's all burned.
Right.
They just grabbed a guy that looked like Pike.
Vaguely.
This is the guy that looked like him.
Are you sure?
So yes, it says that he played him in the Menagerie.
Well, yeah, but they just used the footage from The Cage for that.
Well, no. So in the Cage,
Uh-huh.
he's played by Jeffrey Hunter.
Right. What? And you're convinced these are different men.
They are different men.
Corporate has asked me to find the difference between these two pictures, and I cannot.
They are, in fact, different men. So
They couldn't like comb his hair a different way or like do literally fucking anything.
So the reason he looks like Pike is because
Because he is Pike.
Pike, but he's not original Formula Pike. He's
If we got a guy who looked this much like original Formula Pike, why did we cover him in 6 pounds of makeup? He may as well be wearing a monster mask in Menagerie.
I mean
That could be Shatner under that makeup.
I don't have the answers for you.
That's insane.
This is okay. So I don't know what got edited out because there was a long pause there.
Yeah, we had
Essentially,
to do a lot of research.
Daniel sent me a message while watching this episode and said, "Is that Pike?"
Because
And
it
then
looks
I looked at
exactly
it,
like him.
and I didn't remember from when I watched this before, and I was like, yeah, that looks like Pike. Hang on, let me look this up." And I looked at the arena, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, Sean Kenny, who played Pike," not remembering that original Pike was played by Jeffrey Hunter, and Sean Kenny turns out is the actor that replaced him for the Menagerie, which is different than the Cage, even though they both kind of mean the same thing a little bit
Right. But
in
shouldn't Jeffrey Hunter
context.
be credited in both?
I'm sure he was,
Okay. As long
but
as he
but
got his
but
credit, I
this
guess.
this is Sean Kenny, who is fake Pike, and but the real confusion comes from the fact
Yeah.
that he looks a lot like Pike.
He looks exactly like Jeffrey Hunter. They look like the same man. So I don't understand why do we keep
Yeah.
doing this? Why do we keep doing this thing of like, okay, we're going to cast this guy and then we're going to forget, I guess, that we cast him and we're going to cast him again as a different guy and no one's going to notice.
Uh, I'm saying this
This is
with
like the
six.
fourth time.
I'm saying this with 6 cigarettes in my mouth and 4 in my hand. That's Hollywood, baby.
That's Hollywood, baby. That's nuts. That's truly nuts and a little upsetting, truthfully. Okay, so Pike, but not the Pike we thought, is just sitting there.
Pike, but not Pike, but not
But
that
not
Pike,
Pike.
but also not Pike.
Yeah. Star Trek is stupid.
Wait, 19 episodes to figure that out?
This is stupid. I don't like it. Anyway, he's called the Paul in this, and I guess he's the navigator. It doesn't matter. He's only apparently in one other episode after this, so who cares? They continue chasing the ship into uncharted territory, which I would have thought or assumed was Gorn territory, that they were like running back to their home planet or some base or something. Evidently not so. They go to Warp 7 and Scotty's like, "Oh, I'm giving her all she's got, Captain." He doesn't say that, but like he basically says it. Emotionally, he says it. And then the bad guys go to 7 and then they go to 8 and Scotty's like, we can't, it's going to break the ship. You can't go 8. And then the other guys don't go 8, so then we're catching up. But then I don't know, man. The point, long story short, a big glowy guy shows up and goes, "Y'all got to stop."
I wanted to make a note of every time somebody's, because they have a conversation about Warp Factor 7,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Captain, are you sure? Warp Factor 7 could be dangerous." And he's like, "It's going to break apart, Captain." And he's like, "We go to Warp Factor." Every time Warp 7 is said, Scotty looks like he's going to cry.
He doesn't like it.
And because his ship's going to explode, his ship that he works very hard to maintain, they're just going to break just like that to catch some lizards. And then Kirk very brazenly goes, "Warp Factor 8. It's Scotty's face."
This guy's like,
No.
"Are you kidding me?"
"No, Captain."
I would be curious as to why the ship can even go at a speed that destroys it. That
You have
doesn't
to-
seem like a thing that should
You
happen.
have to be able to. It has to, the freedom of choice.
I guess. They start getting
And yeah,
scanned
at
by.
this point, by the way, before the big glowy thing happens,
Sure.
Kirk is full Captain Ahab.
Yeah, he's pissed.
I don't know. He went. So yeah, the Gorn did some messed up stuff.
They
back
killed a
there.
lot of people, and apparently women and children, although off
And-
screen.
But I think it would be Kirk's job to not take that personal, let that affect his judgment. But he's just like leaning forward, foaming at the mouth, like,
Yeah.
"We're gonna catch him."
Well, you
We're
know what
gonna
he's
get
really
these."
mad about is that he was going to get some really good food, and he can't get
Yeah.
that anymore because the Commodore is, I guess, probably dead.
I'd be mad too.
Yeah. They blew up the Canes, and now I have to go to Popeyes.
Oh no! Some people probably really like Popeyes,
Those
but
people are wrong, and
you
they
know
should
what?
be known that they're
let's
wrong.
get political.
Yeah.
Cane's is better.
Cane's is way better. Come on, Popeyes is gross. I've never had a good experience at a Popeyes in my life.
I've probably had one good experience, but I don't go there a lot either. But Cane's is still better.
Hell yeah, brother. Anyway, they start getting scanned from somewhere in a nearby solar system that is uncharted and unknown. They get close to the Gorn ship, but then the Gorn ship has like stopped. And then when they start getting close, they get hit by something, and then they also stop. And they don't have any damage, but the ship can't move and they can't shoot. And then what I wrote is a seizure warning pops up on the screen.
Yeah, a
because a
little bit.
big flashy light man. Well, it's just a big. It doesn't look like a man. It's just a big flashy like screensaver looking light show. Pops up on the screen, and he's like, "You guys are too violent. I'm gonna port you down to a planet where y'all can fight because I
Could
don't
it
like
be?
you."
Could it possibly be? Have we pissed off? You guessed it. Another godlike alien being.
We did it just by being nearby, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah. It kind of
basically,
kind of pulled up like a space cop.
he's a
Like,
real
well, all right,
dick.
what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know, man. What an asshole. But this guy who, what do they call themselves? The Metites. It's like
The
Metrons.
Metrons?
Yeah,
It's Metrons.
yeah. Which I wrote down and I was like, is this supposed to be like Metatron, like the angel or something? Is that what the joke is, or the reference point here is? Maybe.
Probably.
Um. Anyway, he's like, y'all are being violent, and I don't like it in my solar system, I guess. So I'm gonna take the captains of both ships and put them on this planet, and whichever one loses, I'll blow up that ship. Which is like, hey man, you turned normal violence into like televised violence. That doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm starting to think you're the problem here, Metron.
But you know what? Ignore all that. We got captain versus captain, no holds
No
barred.
holds barred in a steel cage match. So I wrote, these self-righteous ass aliens are like,
Oh
this will
yeah.
stop other people from coming here. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. You'll blow up these two ships, and then the people who don't know anything about this solar system won't hear what happened here, and then they will still. I don't know, man. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And then all of a sudden, Kirk just vanishes, and Uhura screams real loud, which is fair.
Oh yeah. You know, I feel like we've seen people vanish from the bridge before, but this time really jump scared her.
Yeah, this one felt violent. And he appears in front of a big green lizard man with bug eyes, and he's called a Gorn, and he goes.
All right, yeah, let's talk about him. Let's talk. What are you feeling about the Gorn?
It's a bad suit, but for the time, it's pretty good. I mean, like, we haven't had a lot of monster suits in this. I think I like it. I think I like it better than the Salt Vampire one, but it's not. It's not good. Like, you look at it and you're like, that's a foam suit. You
Yeah,
know what I
the,
mean?
the salt vampire would be the closest I think you could reasonably compare this to, because the only other one that I'm thinking of is the Squidward,
Yeah,
but that was a puppet,
canonically a puppet.
and yeah, so I don't think that really counts. This is supposed to be a living thing, just like the salt vampire. It was probably molded by the same company. Don't fact check me on that. I don't
It
know for
feels
sure.
like that would make sense. Yeah.
Um, one thing I never noticed until this watch of this episode is he's got nose hairs sticking out of his little nostrils, and I don't
Yeah.
like that.
No, it's pretty gross.
He's got ratty little teeth. They in the digital, I'm assuming this has to be the digital thing. They made him blink in the newer version.
Yeah. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't distract too much.
They only do it like twice or
Yeah.
once. Um,
And then
yeah,
Kirk says something in, I think it's in the captain's log. He doesn't say it out loud. But he's like, yeah, I have a biological revulsion to reptiles or something.
all humans hate lizards. Yeah, he's being a little racist,
and I'm
openly racist to lizard folk.
All right, man, I get it. You don't like pointy ears or scales. I understand. But green women, ooh, ma.
Pointy ears I can deal with.
The Gorn
Scaly people.
rips
I
a
don't think so.
branch off a tree and he swings it at Kirk exactly once, but misses and then gives up. And then they have one of the most embarrassing fights I've ever seen in my life. They fight like the suit is rented and they have to get it back without getting it too dirty.
Yeah.
It is so slow. It is at like half a mile an hour. And I think if I had to guess, it's probably because the actor in the Gorn suit can't see shit.
Yeah,
that would be
I think
my
that-
guess.
Yeah, that would be. Yes, I believe that's correct. The you can't really do choreography when your guy can't see anything, and he's probably just in there thinking like, if I punch Shatner, I'm fired.
Never in my life did I think I would look back fondly on the Finnegan fist fight from Shore Leave and be like, that's pretty good. But damn,
Well,
compared to
that one-
this.
That one also had some like homoeroticism to it.
Yeah.
There's no sexual tension with the Gorn, I don't think.
God, I wish he kissed that lizard.
But
But Kirk
the
escaped.
specific
Oh, sorry, go
specific
on.
shot where the Gorn takes the left hook at
Oh my
the
God.
slowest speed possible, and
It is.
Kirk ducks it.
It's something to
yeah,
behold.
I think it's pretty famous.
Yeah.
I think people know. what the deal
It's
is here.
it's rough. Kirk finally escapes because the Gorn gets him in like a bear hug, and then he boxes his ears and throws a pretty big rock at him, and it doesn't do shit. It basically bounces straight off him, and then the Gorn picks up a much bigger rock and throws it, and it also just misses. Kirk
That's
like sort of
classic.
sidesteps it.
That's classic wrestling storytelling. We've established Kirk as the physical underdog here.
Yeah,
The biggest thing in Kirk's favor is that the Gorn is a famously slow worker, so
yeah.
he's able to escape.
He's a real great collie.
It is comparable to the Great Khali. I was thinking like, Undertaker right before he retired, but
Oh sure.
it is more like the Khali. You are
Yeah,
correct.
Undertaker even then had more showmanship at least,
Mm,
and more
mm.
racism, but that's fine. Uh,
Oh, okay.
we get like
Yeah.
1 second back on the bridge where Spock and Uhura are like trying to figure out something, but they don't make any progress. It's just to be like, and there's a crew here. Kirk makes a captain's log into the little thing. The Metatron or Metron, whatever, gave him and the Gorn captain like what looks like a lightsaber hilt.
Yeah.
And he was like, "This will let you talk to the other guy, and it'll translate it, and it'll also let you record your thoughts or something."
Yeah. I
And
guess Kirk
Kirk,
wasn't listening.
I guess Kirk doesn't know how to do it, so he starts doing basically a captain's log into this, which is just we immediately see the Gorn can hear it, and it's evidently
Yeah,
translating it so he
being
can
translated
understand
directly
it.
to him.
And what Kirk says is, "He's really strong, but boy is he stupid and slow."
I tried to kill the lizard bastard, but I got away.
If it weren't for his
I
disgusting
do like
scaly hide.
that he says like it took attacks from me that would have killed a human being. Okay, Kirk. Yeah, I bet.
He threw a
He's
pretty
like
big rock, I guess.
if I'm going to die, I'm gonna let the history books show that I'm the coolest man ever.
Maybe the shitty little hammer punch that he did is actually like a future judo thing that stops the heart from beating.
I think he's just doing the Star Trek equivalent of, and then the Gorn summoned 100 ninjas, and I fought them off easily.
There were 40 men, and they were all 7 feet tall, and one of them had a gun.
Yeah.
Let's see. The aliens. Okay, here's where I wrote down the aliens holding them are called Metrons. I guess this is the first time that I wrote it down. And I wrote Metatron, and then I was like, Modrons? Like the little robot guys from Dungeons and Dragons? Second Dungeons and Dragons reference.
Oh.
There you go. Kirk finds a fist-sized diamond, and he's like, why are there no weapons here? They said there'd be weapons. And I was like, I don't remember them saying that there'd be weapons, but they might have.
Okay. He didn't say there would be weapons. He said we're going to put you on a planet where you could construct a weapon. He basically told him the answer to the puzzle, but Kirk wasn't listening.
Yeah, but the Gorn must have been because Kirk immediately then sees the Gorn like making a dagger, or like maybe it was supposed to become a spear and he didn't get time to finish it. But he basically takes like a piece of obsidian or flint or something and sharpens it into a stabber.
Yeah, well, we see him making as well. He grabs like a vine and some rocks and a log. And I wrote in my notes, my God, the Gorn's constructing a wily coyote trap.
He's gonna paint a green woman on the side of a cliff and have Kirk run into it.
But Kirk would abscond with the painted woman.
Yeah, it would work for him.
The Gorn would be very
He'd
confused.
be like, "What the hell?" Kirk sees him making the knife or whatever, and he does a wily coyote and pushes a big boulder down a ledge at him, and it hits him real good.
My God, he is broken in half.
My God, he is broken in half, and it knocks him out for at least a little while. The Gorn survives, and just basically as soon as Kirk gets down there to investigate, he wakes up and starts standing up and trying to like stab him with the little stabber knife that he made. And then Kirk runs immediately into a snare trap that the Gorn had made. And at this point, I'm like, this Gorn might just be better at this than Kirk.
100%.
He might just be better at this.
100%. I'm shocked Kirk survives this episode.
Frankly. But
he actually fell into the wily coyote trap.
yeah. Fortunately, the Gorn is the slowest creature in existence. And so he goes for the stab at like 0.25 speed, and Kirk is able to get out of the way and escape.
Well, he's just trying to guess the entire buildup. He's like, where is this thing's heart?
Yeah. I wrote, the Gorn can't run, but apparently neither can Kirk because he gets gassed so fast, and then he finds sulfur.
Well, we're about 30 minutes into this match, so they're both blown up.
Yeah, I guess so.
The
Metron talks to the Enterprise crew, and he's like, Bones is like, hey, can you stop this, like, we can talk this out. And Metrons are like, no, you guys love fighting. Why don't you watch this? It's a pay-per-view now. And he puts it on the screen like the cage. And then we watch
Next
it.
televised.
We watch it on that screen in a way that doesn't look great for, in my opinion, way too long. I don't know how long it was. It felt like 3 minutes.
Yeah, we kind of. I think it was a mistake because watching the fight on the planet felt more personable,
Yeah.
and then it shows us the fight from a worse resolution
Mm-hmm.
on the screen on the bridge, and I just felt like you took us away from the action another layer. I don't know why you would do that. I mean, I know it's important to show that the crew members can see it, sure, but send us back.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that they do it is because Spock is then like sort of narrating the fight a little bit, and he's being like, "Oh, he found potassium
commentary.
nitrate," and he's like kind of explaining what is happening so that we know that like Kirk is doing something. But you could have Kirk famously talks to himself all the time. You could have just had him do it.
I wrote down a silly joke in my notes.
Okay,
I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
So when he sees the sulfur on the side of the cliff,
Yeah.
just a bunch of yellow dust.
Correct.
And I wrote yellow markings on the wall. That means Kirk climate.
Oh my god. So Kirk then hears the Gorn talking to him through the machine, and I have to assume he then goes, "Oh, damn. He heard everything I said."
He's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, and the Gorn's basically just like, "Would you stop running? I just want to kill you."
Come on, man.
Come on,
Give
man.
up.
This sucks, bro. And then he also says that the outpost was in their space, and so the humans were the invaders, which makes Bones sympathetic. And he's like, "Is it possible that that could be true? Are we the bad guys here?" And then I want to remind everyone, no.
Well,
They're still not. They landed on a planet. Unless the reveal was like they landed here and killed a bunch of people, they just built a base on a planet. The Gorn came by and killed women and children without seemingly any level of diplomacy. They're still the bad guys.
I wouldn't say they're not the bad guys. I would say whoever colonized that planet or attempted to effed up Royal
For sure.
because they encroached into space that whatever. So maybe the first mistake was on the part of the humans, but it doesn't mean that the Gorn were good.
They're not good, and I would say they're also still not justified. The fact that like seemingly step one was I'm gonna blow up this entire base instead of attempting, because we find out from this that they're capable of like diplomacy and talking. They didn't even attempt it. They're not good people. Then Kirk takes some bamboo and some rope and the diamonds and the potassium nitrate and the sulfur, and then he finds some coal, and Spock is really excited when he finds the coal.
We've been making shitty wrestling references this whole time.
Yeah,
and he kept picking up this bamboo, and I'm like, use the kendo stick.
Use the kendo stick. He threw a rock and that didn't work. You know what I mean? I don't know if the kendo stick's gonna get the job done. But he stuffs all that stuff into the bamboo and wraps the rope around it, I guess, as like a brace. At first I thought he was going to use it as a wick, which I guess maybe he also... I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he made a sort of like shitty cannon.
Yeah.
And then he strikes the flint over... I wrote, he struck the flint over all of those things that he just ground up into presumably gunpowder on the rock. That doesn't seem safe.
No.
That feels like a bad idea.
No.
The cannon works, which, if I remember right in Mythbusters, it shouldn't have, but whatever. It's Star Trek. Who cares?
Kirk saved himself with a middle school science fair project and the skills he learned from the Eagle Scouts.
Yeah, I guess. If the Eagle Scouts ever taught me how to make a cannon, I would have definitely stayed in Boy Scouts longer.
I think it was more like scratching the flint to make a fire. That was the Eagle Scouts part.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's like...
I don't think they give you the what's it called? The Arsonist Cookbook or something?
Oh, the Anarchist Cookbook? Yeah.
Anarchist Cookbook.
So the cannon works, and it knocks out the Gorn, and he's got like little diamonds sticking out of him, which is a good touch, I guess. But then Kirk refuses to kill him because he's like, oh, well, when he killed all those women and children, he didn't mean it, I guess. I don't know, man. I'd have killed him. I would have been the bad guy. I'd have for sure killed him. Anyway, it doesn't matter because a Greek femboy shows up.
I wrote Roman femboy.
We were so close.
Yeah.
No, if he was Roman, he would have been a Romulan. There you go.
Damn. That's you know what?
Got his ass.
That's true.
shows up and he ADRs some self-righteous bullshit at Kirk, and he's like, maybe you do have a chance. Maybe in 1,000 years you won't suck. And it's like, all right, man. And then he teleports him back to the bridge, and teleports the Enterprise to the other side of the galaxy for some
500
reason.
500 parsecs.
And then Spock and Kirk joke about humans potentially having the ability to not suck in 1,000 years, and the episode ends. It's a weird ending for me.
Okay, so as far as the godlike alien being goes,
Yeah.
I get that there was a lesson they were trying to teach us, and yeah, they were self-righteous, and yes, you're making points as to why the Gorn weren't good guys, but they were trying to impart a lesson, whatever. But I'm getting so tired
Yeah.
of these almighty powerful fuckers showing up, teleporting us wherever the hell they want. Like, come on.
It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know how much we see the Gorn after this in other things. I think it's not a lot.
I think I have your answer.
Oh, is it never?
In this show, live action,
Yeah.
never.
Okay.
In the animated series,
Oh,
once,
okay.
which may not be quote unquote canon. I don't know if anyone cares about that.
Interesting.
In any other show, I think a single episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
Interesting.
And then I believe they are the main antagonists of a video game that is a spin-off of the J.J. Abrams movies.
Oh, the bad one. The really bad game.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I didn't play it. I don't know.
Uh,
But I would put money on it being bad, probably.
That makes sense. That's weird to me though. Because the Gorn predate like Klingons or the big ear guys, or like a lot of the races that I've seen before. The Gorn predate them, and we like almost never see them. Was it just that they thought that the lizard suits were too complicated and too expensive?
Yeah, so even if they thought like it would be too hard to do makeup or practical effects or suits for whatever for big lizard guys, it would cost money and time, and we just don't mess with that again.
Yeah.
Like in future shows, I mean, like I get them never doing it again here.
I actually don't, because they've
and I
already
don't-
got the suit.
Well,
And
yeah,
this
they
character
have
is alive. Bring him back.
they
Why not?
have one, and the
Yeah.
guy inside can't see. So
That's true.
they probably spent this entire shoot being like, "Why did we make this lizard suit? This is terrible."
Bro, this sucks.
They were
I
like,
hate
"Put
this.
this in the dumpster. We're done with it."
Yeah.
But in future shows, when we get to next gen or even newer, well, I guess I can't speak to newer stuff because I haven't watched it.
Sure.
But I did keep thinking there's a race of lizard, at least lizard-like people in Doctor Who. They're called Silurians, I think.
All right.
And the makeup on them looks really good. And I was like, well, we couldn't do that with some sort of like more modern Star Trek stuff. But I guess they
Yeah.
never
'Cause
bothered.
doesn't Doctor Who like famously generally have a pretty low budget? So if they're able to make that work, you would think that Star Trek
Lower
would
than
be able to make
lower
that
than
work.
whatever Star Trek did. I can almost assure you.
Yeah. That's a little disappointing, but I don't. I'm not going to be mad about it, you know. But
I'll
yeah,
send you a picture of the Silurian.
this is a weird episode for me. So we're getting into the stage here to rate it, where our rating system is that it's either illogical if it's bad or an engage if it's good. And I genuinely don't know what I'm going to give this one. I really don't, because I think it's iconic and I like the monster suit, but this episode like kind of did nothing for me. And so like I think I might be sort of leaning towards illogical, but I'd like to hear your perspective on this, because I really truly like I could not make a choice prior to recording. I do not know what I'm gonna do here.
I also haven't made a decision yet.
This is
Normally I have it-
unfortunate for us.
Normally, I already have it written in my notes,
Yeah,
like
same.
what I'm going to give it. But as of right now, I haven't decided. We could split the difference. I think I'm leaning engage. Now, I knew going in that this episode wasn't my favorite because
What you see?
I don't like godlike alien beings.
True. Me neither.
And I knew that the Gorn, for how iconic the fight was,
Was not iconic
wasn't-
because it was good.
Yeah. It wasn't a big important thing, even part of the episode. I think it's fun to watch for the most part, though.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I don't have any reason to say I don't like this episode, really. It's just, it's not as good as its icon status would have you think it should be. And I don't even think a lot of people who remember the Gorn, like, oh, when Shatner fights the lizard guy, I don't think they remember the kindergarten teacher of a god coming in and like pulling the two ships apart and being like, all right, you in this corner, you in this corner.
Yeah. That's probably fair. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give this episode an illogical. I don't think I cared for this one. It's not bad, I don't think that it's terrible. I just feel like it was disappointing to me. Is where I'm landing
Yeah.
on it. Is I was just
Uh,
like, the fight's bad. I don't like the message of it. I did like Kirk making a cannon. That's fun, but
yeah.
yeah,
I'm gonna split the difference with you, and I'll take the engaged side of the fence. I feel like we're still so close to the fence that we could like hold hands through the fence.
yeah,
But
yeah. I'm
but
I'm I'm looking over the fence like that guy from not Tool Time. That's the name of the fake show inside the show.
yeah. Uh,
Uh,
the
Home
neighbor
Improvement.
on Home Improvement.
There we
His name
go.
is Wilson.
Yeah, I'm Wilson.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah,
Whatever. That's we specifically don't have a middle of the road or a .5
we
rating of
can't.
this. It's
Yeah,
one or the other.
I feel like we would
So
use it too much. Um,
yeah.
but it is weird. It's weird to me that this is like such an iconic episode, and we're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just the heroic Captain Kirk fights a lizard guy, and that's what people remember.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it was just a cool suit. I did like the suit. I mean, it didn't work for shooting, but it looked cool.
Yeah. I do have some factoids to share with you,
Yes.
except that my notes app just froze. Hang on.
Neat. Radical.
Okay. So remember our good old friend Ted Cassidy, also known as Lurch from the Addams Family? The
Yeah,
60s
sure.
version?
Yeah.
He played the big guy in What Are Little Girls Made Of? And I don't think we mentioned on the episode, but he was also the voice of the Squidward puppet in the Corbinite maneuver.
Sure.
He's also, in his final Star Trek appearance, the voice of the Gorn Captain.
Oh, I
Yeah,
wonder if we just had him record that and the Squidward on the same day.
possible.
Well, that's neat.
Let's see here.
There's
This
Gene
episode,
Roddenberry in the suit.
this episode is the first to establish a bunch of things. It establishes that the Enterprise's cruising speed was warp 6.
Sure. That's like the maximum speed it can go without doing damage to itself, I guess.
I think 7 was as high as no.
Because he said
Yeah,
7. If they maintain
7 was
they would.
dangerous. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
correct. You're correct. It establishes the existence of the Federation, I suppose, because they had never, like, I think the word Federation was said in the Corbinite maneuver, but that's what little Clint Howard called his thing.
Okay. We do get a
But
different name for it in the next episode.
they name drop Starfleet in this episode too,
Yeah.
for like the first time, I think. And also, this was the first episode to be broadcast in color by the BBC.
Oh, so that answers our question from before, that it was in black and white for a long time.
Yeah, so it started in black and white, and then it started to be showed in color afterwards. I don't know when. So it being in the BBC, so that it started premiering in color in 1969 in the UK. So I
Mhm.
don't know when we started getting it in color here in the States. Uh,
Who knows?
you would have to ask your grandpappy for that answer,
My
listener.
grandpappy almost certainly did not watch Star Trek.
And then let's see. Oh, yeah, as we mentioned before, it establishes that transporters cannot beam through deflector shields.
Yeah,
That's all.
although I would argue that that's not true. I think that they established that in the other one,
The one with
not
the planet.
the one with the
with the
prison planet.
Yeah. I agree.
There you go.
Uh,
Eat me, wherever this trivia question came from.
well, I guess what they mean specifically
It's like on
there
a
is
ship.
that
Yeah.
we cannot beam you up with our shields on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a little different, technically. This says, although it was not intentional, the research department realized that the screenplay for this episode strongly resembled a novella of the same name by an author named Frederick Brown. To deal with this, they called Frederick Brown, told him about it, and he said, "Just do it, but give me a writer's credit and pay me a writer's fee." And they were like, "Okay."
That's fair.
And then I saved the best for last. You're gonna like this one.
Yes.
Remember all those mortars that were going off that we were impressed by?
Yeah.
Allegedly, William Shatner currently suffers from tinnitus due to an improperly timed special effects explosion on the set of this episode.
This was
It also,
so early. This is
it
season
also,
1.
yes, sir. It also says that Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley reportedly both suffered from tinnitus as well.
From
For the
this
rest
episode?
of their lives, Daniel.
DeForest Kelley wasn't. He wasn't.
They beamed down.
Well, he was
Yeah.
down there, but he stayed like further
He
back.
didn't do a prop roll.
Yeah.
Spock and Kirk both did.
Yeah, they both got
little
explosions like
rolls.
real close to him. DeForest Kelley, though,
So-
he was.
Maybe he was
certainly
lying.
further away. He just wanted. He was like, "Yeah, me too, guys."
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I would say that this job is worth a lot, but not your hearing. But they gave it anyways. Thanks, boys.
Real American heroes. All right, are you ready to talk about the next episode?
We got one more to do. Let's do it.
We got one more episode. Whatever. Tomorrow is yesterday. This is a fun one.
Is it appropriate to say that we have to cast our minds back
We gotta go
to the late 1960s?
That's the
in
other-
our mind palace.
No, that's the other show. We can't do that here. No.
Damn it. Well, it's too late. They've already taken us back.
So this episode starts on Earth. In what I wrote down is this is a different TV show.
Yeah, a little bit.
It is the first thing we see is a normal airplane moving around on a tarmac, and an Air Force radar technician picking up like a weird reading, and he's like, "There's an object. It just appeared, and now it's just hovering around." And they call it a UFO, and then they cut to it, and it is the Enterprise hovering above the '60s Earth, and for the second time now, we are above either the real or a fake version of just the '60s Earth.
Yeah.
Except this
Yeah,
time it's
you know
actually
what?
relevant to the plot.
Yeah, you know what's weird? It just makes what episode was that? Miri?
Yeah.
Just makes that episode looks all the more shittier.
It makes a different episode look worse too, but we'll get to that. Up on the Enterprise, it turns out that I guess somehow after getting teleported to the other side of the universe, they also got too close to what they call a black star, but I assume they mean black hole. And
guess,
then when they got away from it, it sent them flying through space really fast, and so now they time traveled. They don't know that they time traveled yet. They're going to find out in about 5 seconds, but I guess they time traveled. The team has all been thrown to the floor, and I wrote, Spaka helps up Uhura, and she looks real rattled, and also her underwear pops out at one point.
Yeah.
Um,
We need to get our women some longer skirts.
For
This
sure.
is getting ridiculous.
It's, or at least if we're going to have them in short skirts, we can't be throwing them around like this.
Yeah. Good point. They mentioned that they were on their way to Starbase 9 for resupply. Which
Right.
I was thinking, like, what are you resupplying? All the people you've gotten killed?
Yeah,
You're
I
just
don't know.
filling the vacant positions.
We should at some point like do a count of how many people have died on this crew, because I'd be
man.
curious to know what that is.
We're too far in. I'm sure that somewhere it says that.
I'm sure we'll look for that
Has to.
information. I'll find it if I can, and we'll get it in the next episode if I remember to care. They blah 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 blah. Spock says that there's a casualty report and that they've only got minor injuries, and this reinforces my point from a couple episodes before, where they were like, casualty report says 22 people, and then I was like, but at the end of the episode they said only the one guy died. That was during the Balance of Terror episode. I think this reinforces the point that 22 people did not die in that episode. It was just the one guy, because they call it a casualty report even though nobody died. It's just injuries. So that's I think maybe their terminology is just weird.
Awesome.
Obviously, I still don't have confirmation on that, but
Maybe
it reinforces
maybe
it
it's
certainly.
like the future standpoint of we're supposed to, like, we have higher standards of living now, so people don't die all the time. So we consider a casualty like a broken arm. But
yeah,
also space exploration is so dangerous that people still do die all the time at
they
the same
should
time.
certainly do in this show.
Yeah.
Uhura can't pick up Starfleet, but she does pick up a radio transmission, which she then plays over the loudspeaker, and it is a news broadcast about the Moonshot team, which I'm it says the first manned moonshot team, which I have to assume is Neil Armstrong and them.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want me to get into a little fun factoid about that?
Go for it, brother.
So, as you mentioned, they say the first moonshot was in the late 1960s. That's what Captain Kirk says.
Right.
So, that was a prediction. It hadn't happened yet. Obviously,
Did it
this
come
was like
true?
19. This was like 1967.
Okay.
And then what? The moon landing was 1969.
I don't know the year, but I'm sure you're right.
Um, but yeah, they specifically say like a three-manned thing in the late 1960s. Like there were other TV shows around the time and movies, I guess,
Mhm.
that did the same prediction. Like they knew it was coming, I think, because what JFK was like, we're gonna put him on the moon.
Yeah. Ask
So
not what
people
your
like
moon can do for you, but what you can do for your moon.
that's what he said.
Yeah.
People were, I'm assuming they knew it was coming. There were other shows that predicted like the early 70s. So Star Trek specifically guessed the late 90s, or
Or late
excuse me,
60s.
the late 60s.
You had the six upside
They
down. I
were
understand.
yeah, I know I'm dyslexic. They were correct. And not only were they correct in saying the late 60s, the little radio report that they intercept says that the moonshot will take place on a Wednesday,
Mm.
and the Apollo 11 launch was on July 16th, 1969, which was a Wednesday.
Insane. Gene
I
Roddenberry, truly a genius.
He knew. He knew.
Uh,
Or whoever was working at NASA, big Star Trek fans.
Must
They're
be.
like, we got to do it on Wednesday, and we got to only send 3 guys up there because that's what Star Trek said.
That's what Star Trek said. We got to make him right. Got to do my boy proud. An airplane starts closing in on them, and it ends up being able to see the Enterprise. And they're like, "Oh, we gotta catch it with a tractor beam. We can't let them tell people about us." And Scotty's like, "Okay, the tractor beam like will or no." Spock says it. Spock's like, "Tractor beam will probably destroy that plane. You know that,
Watch
right?"
this tiny little
And
tin
then
can.
Kirk goes, "What?" And then Scotty just does it, I guess. And then the thing, so they have to teleport the pilot out so he doesn't die. So they teleport the pilot, John Christopher, onto the Enterprise in the 60s.
Yeah, Kirk is not beating the reckless renegade allegations with
Two
his
episodes in a
actions
row,
here.
frankly.
He's just because he's like, well, I guess we have this 60s man on board now. Welcome around. Would you like to see our teleporter?
Yeah, for being
Everyone's
like
like,
we
Captain,
can't
what are we doing?
for the reason of hitting him with the tractor beam being we can't let him know anything about us. He does immediately give him the whole tour of the bitch.
It's literally the first 20th century man he could have possibly come in contact with, and he snatched him right out of the sky.
Yeah. They pass a woman in the hallway, and the guy's like, "A woman?" He doesn't say anything, but he has a look on his face. He's shocked, but he seems largely polite about it, I guess.
You let women in here? And Kirk's like, I know, right?
Kirk says that they are part of the. So yeah, okay. They get on the grav lift or whatever the elevators are called in this universe, and
Turbolift?
and Kirk says that they are part of the United Earth Space Probe Agency. And I wrote, "What the fuck is that?"
We're just flying out into space and seeing what we find. And most of the time, it's God.
I apparently, but so we don't. Because you said that they name drop Starfleet. Do we not have that? We don't call it that now. We call it the United Earth Space Probe Agency.
I think so. Man, okay. I think Starfleet is like Starfleet's an Earth-based organization. They take aliens, of course, but
Right.
so that's like an Earth thing. But the Federation is like multi-species. Like there's lots of stuff. So
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe they haven't like pinpointed that name yet. We do by the time we get to the movies, at least.
Okay.
But yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah. And then Kirk immediately it just like starts telling him all kinds of stuff. He's like, "Yeah, there's 12 ships like this in the fleet. We're from the future."
All the information you could
Just
possibly.
everything.
He didn't even have to say the future part.
I feel like it should have been implied, frankly. And then Captain John Christopher says,
Could they have not have just like swerved the whole problem by saying like we are aliens,
"I was
and you could catch up to this technology one day if you try hard enough and eat your vitamins, and then they just send them back, and
yeah,
then they leave.
golly." So they come off the elevator into the bridge, and he's just as the pilot is saying, "Oh, I never believed in little green men." And then, of course, the first thing he sees is Spock and Uhura, and he's like, "A black woman."
Yeah, what? Oh, and that guy's got pointy
That
ears,
guy's
I
got pointy
guess.
ears. An elf? Strange.
Yeah, I personally don't find Spock physically different enough to warrant the kind of a reaction that this guy gave.
Yeah, absolutely not.
He was
He's
like,
got pointy ears
huh?
and big eyebrows, and that's it.
Yeah.
He's looking at him like he's a Gorn. Uh,
Oh, if the Gorn was here, that'd be crazy.
Spock starts briefing Kirk on the ship situation. It's basically just like the ship's like mostly fine. Our engines are coming back online. Some of our other stuff is like stuttering a little bit. And I wrote in the background you can see Uhura like basically slap Christopher's hand from touching something.
Yeah,
Because
don't
Kirk,
touch that.
when they come off the lift, Kirk is like, "Look around, don't touch anything." And then in the background, he immediately tries to touch something. And it was a cool little character moment. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, they all kind of talk about him in various times. Like he's basically a chimp, an ape.
Yeah,
They're just like, this guy, if we took him to the future with us, no chance. He's got nothing.
yeah,
And I think even Bones is like, well, we can't train him, we can't re-educate him, whatever.
yeah.
And they're like, no, he
No,
would
dude, that's
suck.
crazy. Uh,
He will not be able to fathom. How is he going to turn on his TV?
Yeah. Well, first, Spock tells Kirk that they can't return him to Earth because they're like, he knows too much and he could like play the stock market, I guess. And I'm like, he knows too much. I agree. The point here of him being able to like use the information he has here to manipulate stuff, I don't think he would have learned any. Like, he didn't walk in and be like, oh, an Apple teleporter. I'll put stock on Apple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess he would what? He would just start investing his life savings in aerospace technology? It's
I
like I really gotta get in the ground
Yeah,
floor
I don't know,
on
man. He would start SpaceX. They tell
oh
they tell Chris.
no.
I wrote him in here as Christopher, even though that's his last name, but we're just gonna roll with that. They tell Christopher that he has to go get changed or something, and then to meet him in Kirk's office. And I wrote, they give him a uniform. Isn't that stolen valor?
No, actually that's another fun fact that I have. So him being in the Air Force, I guess I don't know if they ever say that he's a lieutenant in this,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
they
I think they
give
say
him the
captain.
uniform. The uniform. Well, yeah, he captain,
Yeah.
but oh yeah, okay. I'll read it verbatim. How about
Thank
that?
you. Do it.
Captain Christopher is given the tunic of a full lieutenant, the naval equivalent of his Air Force captain rank. There you go.
Okay. Weird.
So they're
But
like,
fair,
you
I
serve, so
guess.
you get a thing. It's not stolen valor. It's just translated valor.
I'll let it fly this time, but I don't like it. In Kirk's office, the computer is super horny for some reason, and he explains.
Okay,
It
yeah.
keeps
Let's
calling him what, babe or dearie? I don't
dear.
remember. Dear,
Call him
yeah.
dear.
And it's got like a smoky, like sexy lady voice. And Kirk's like,
Yeah.
we went to an all ladies planet and they repaired the ship, and now my computer's horny. And I was like, where's that episode?
Yeah, they
I want to see that one
that episode was banned for the
unaired.
antics that Kirk got up to.
Uh,
Yeah, no, that was weird. They specifically, they're like, the
he-
women said that our computer needed repair, and
yeah.
so they did it, and then now our computer thinks like a woman, and she's like, coming right up, dear. I'm like, is that what?
And I think the
What's going on?
funniest thing about this is that it has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on the
No,
episode. It has nothing to do with anything.
somebody said this episode needs to be funnier, I guess.
I guess? Yeah, I don't know.
Odd,
It's just
very
like,
odd.
hey, this is a story about time travel and like having sort of a fish out of water thing with this Air Force captain, I guess. What if the computer was really horny? Would that
It was
be
it was like
good?
horny and also, I guess, sassy in a way because Kirk keeps telling it to stop being horny.
Yeah, and it goes,
And it's not listening. And at one point, Kirk like snaps at it, and he's like, "Computer, make a log that if you don't cut this shit out, I'm gonna put you in the garbage disposal." And then the computer cuts the shit out, and it's like,
it gets
oh,
like sad. Yeah.
yeah. He makes the computer cry, but it also proves that it could have stopped at any time.
Yeah, so the Enterprise right now is the house from Smart House, basically.
Yeah, a little
So,
bit.
Scotty is having Smart House in the engine room right now, and we're not looking
Oh
at it.
no.
There's oranges
Oh
flying
no.
everywhere.
Actually, Scotty's probably having 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's trying to kill
He's
him.
having a rough time. Scotty's always having the worst
So,
time.
however rough you think Kirk and Spock have it, Scotty is going through hell.
Oh man. They tell Christopher that he can't go back, and that doesn't go well. He basically immediately starts throwing a fit, and then he's like, "Well, it might change the future if I go back, but wouldn't it also change the future if I don't go back because I'll be missing?" And Spock's like, "No, you suck. Actually, I looked you
I
up.
looked
You don't do shit. I looked up
looked you
your
up on
IMDb. This is your only credit."
I looked you up on Google, and then he's like, don't remember what Google is." And then he's like, "Yeah, you suck. You have." I think what he says almost word for word is like, "You have no effect on the timeline whatsoever."
What a bummer. Like most people don't, but it would suck to be told that.
Damn, too stupid to live in the future, too pointless to live in the past.
Ridiculous.
That's
Um,
that's how I feel right now.
at which point Scotty calls up the Christopher leaves the office, and then Scotty calls up and he's like, "Hey, it's gonna take 4 hours to fix the ship, but we don't have anywhere to go
Hmm.
because we're in the '60s."
Yeah,
Um, so Kirk, it's weird that he left because Kirk then almost immediately tries to call Christopher in his room. I mean, I think there's a commercial break, but he tries to call Christopher in his room or his quarters or whatever, and he doesn't answer. So Kirk is like, sound the alarms. He's doing some shit.
yep,
And he is. Christopher immediately goes and knocks a guy out and takes his gun and then tries to force an engineer to beam him down to Earth. But Kirk gets
yeah.
to him first and then knocks him out.
Uh, at this point, what are we to assume other than your average Starfleet security officer ain't worth shit?
Yeah.
They're not stopping anything. This dude, granted, he has some form of military training. He's an officer in the Air Force, but he just shows up, decks him,
Yeah.
and then Kirk himself, only Kirk himself, naturally, Kirk has to be the one to beat this man's ass.
Yeah. But I'll also say, like, the Air Force is not the most, like, trained. They're not trained a lot in, like, hand to hand. Like, people in other branches of the military
Right.
call the Air Force the chair force because they don't
That's
fight, they fly planes, right?
yeah.
So he wouldn't. I mean, I know it's the '60s, so people potentially who were in any branch of the military could have fought in World War II. I think still at this point, right? I think he might be a little too young for that. And B,
Probably.
like he was flying planes.
But there were other wars.
There were other wars. I don't know when, but yeah, there was probably something else going on. I guess there always seems to be. In Medbay, Bones is looking at knocked out Christopher, and he's like, he's fine. Everything's fine. He's good. And then Bones and Kirk start talking about how much he sucks. Bones and Kirk, this is where they have a conversation about, like, okay, well, he can't go back with us to the future either
Yeah.
because he's terrible. And Bones says something about, well, can't we re educate him? We could train him to do something. And Kirk says that he's like acting like Spock. And then Bones it says, well, if you're going to be mean about it, I'll just leave.
It's like, how dare you?
How dare you refer to
Also,
me as that night
I know
eater?
what he meant, and I don't disagree, but re-educate's a scary word.
It's a scary word for sure. Train would probably be better, but we didn't go
Yeah.
there. Christopher wakes up in the middle of it, and he's like, "Okay, well that sucks, dude." And then comes over the comms, or sorry, he comes in and he tells him that he's still lame, but we have to get him back down because his son's not lame. So his son, I guess, goes to Saturn.
Yeah, the
So
first manned mission to Saturn, something like that.
yeah, so that prediction didn't come true, obviously. That we would
Well,
go in one generation, we would go from the moon to Saturn.
no. Well, I don't think it's come true yet. I think the we still got time.
How old would his son have to be at this point?
You know what? That's a good point. I remember the date. They say a date. You know what? Move on. I
Okay.
don't have the answer.
They go to the thinking room and they're trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And at which point Christopher is like, "Yeah, so I took pictures of the thing and it's in the plane that would have crashed, so they have those, and also I made a recording about what I saw and they definitely have that too. So like if we're going to make this go away, we're going to have to break into the Air Force base and destroy the evidence." And then Christopher, who a minute ago just tried to basically mutiny this ship, is now completely on board, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll draw you a map of the base, so that you can get in and get your stuff out." The idea that he would have a son in the near future really turned him around, I guess.
That's true. Also, I checked. Spock didn't say a date for
Okay.
the Saturn flight, which means We've left it open. This guy's son could have been cryogenically frozen,
Okay, all right.
and we haven't done it yet.
Sure. All right. At the base, Kirk and Sulu beam down, and neither is wearing a disguise. Which I was like, you have at least one uniform that someone could wear, because you
Man,
made the other guy change. Why did we
yeah,
beam
I
down in our sweaters?
try a disguise. I said Kirk and Sulu are walking through the halls like they're touring a museum, not trespassing on an Air Force base.
Yeah. They sneak around and they find a quote primitive computer, which it looks like it's like a reel-to-reel tape thing.
And
Um, which is
I'm with
crazy.
them. That's pretty primitive.
That's primitive. I'm glad we don't do that anymore. Imagine trying to play Cyberpunk on that.
There weren't even any colored LED lights.
I know you can't put an anime girl video in the inside there. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Back on the Enterprise, Bones is anxious that they aren't back yet, and I wrote he's freaking out pretty soon here. Spock tries to calm him down, but Bones just gets mad and like kind of. I'll be honest, not a great scene for Bones. Just in terms of acting, he doesn't do great, and then he like stomps his little feet and he like marches off stage, and you're like, all right, buddy. But it is a little bit funny because he's like, shouldn't you be working on your time warp calculations? And Spock's like, I am. I'm doing that in my head.
I liked that line.
Yeah, that was good.
It's like, what do you think I'm doing? Obviously.
I'm obviously doing that right now. Back on Earth, Sulu and Kirk get caught by some guy who takes their guns, and
this is important lore that we've discovered here.
they have guns.
He says, give me those belts, because his belts had like radios and guns on them.
Yeah.
And then we've learned here that standard issue Starfleet belts are Velcro fastened. Hey.
That doesn't seem safe. The emergency signal or something starts going off on the communicator. I don't know what this is or why that happened, but it does. And then it doesn't get a response, so Spock is like, okay, beam that guy, beam the person holding that thing up. And so they beam up some just old ass guard.
Yeah, this poor dude.
And now he has to hang out in the teleporter or transporter room for the rest of the episode.
So this point, more than
we're just grabbing
any
dudes.
before, yeah, we're leading full comedy now.
Yeah.
Like, we've already been a bit silly in spots, but like the guy's like frozen in fear on the teleporter, and Spock just walks up and takes his gun.
Yeah.
And then there's moments coming up where like Kirk just looks at the camera, wah wah style. So
it's certainly a direction for the episode. Kirk calls to say that they have a problem, although I'm not sure how he does that because the guy who was holding the belts, right? So if he got teleported up, wouldn't he have taken it? I don't know, man. It don't matter. But
always
he calls
keep a spare. Always keep a spare in the keister. That's what Kirk's motto
he
is.
keistered a second communicator. That makes sense.
100%.
Kirk runs into some losers, and he starts trying to beat them up, but he doesn't win because they're better at fighting than the Gorn.
Kirk launched himself at these Air Force guys like Luigi's green missile in Smash Bros.
Damn girl.
Like that's we know he goes full spear into these guys.
Yeah, he like jumps over one. It's crazy. But it doesn't work. They get him. So they catch Kirk, but Sulu gets away and he beams up with a film reel that I suppose is part one of the evidence. The guy's like, hey man, where's your other guy? And he's like, there wasn't another guy. You're crazy. And he basically just like gaslights this guy into thinking that he was here by himself. I guess it works, whatever. Back on the Enterprise, Bones again is going crazy and he snaps at Spock about getting him back, and I don't know, it's not good. We just get like one more scene of Bones having a freak out. Kirk is being interviewed by a colonel and like one other guy who doesn't like the way Kirk is answering his questions. So he's questioning him about like, what's up with your uniform? Why are you wearing this? What's this phaser? Is this crazy? What's up with this gun?
Is that elf yours?
Is that elf yours? And it's just this whole scene of like, what's going on here?
Did you recognize this guy at all? He
looked familiar, but yeah, I don't know him.
So for what triggered it in my brain is he sounded familiar. The actor's name is Ed Peck, and he's in stuff. A quick glance at his filmography, I realized what I knew him from. He's the FBI agent in that one joke scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. They want your case of Wonka bars, and the lady's like, "Do I have time to think about it? They kidnapped my husband." Remember?
No, not at all. But I'm glad that
come on.
I'm glad that you remember this man.
That's why I'm on this podcast.
Because of your
to remember things like that.
Your ability to remember bit bits from movies from 40 years ago.
First of all, that's a very funny joke.
Sure.
Second of all, this guy
Yeah.
has a very distinct voice.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for sure. Uh, so yeah, he's questioning him about everything, and the colonel just starts accusing him of crimes that I don't think he could have any possible way of proving that he does. And he threatens to lock him up for 200 years. And then Kirk goes, "Well, that'd be about right." Wah, wah, wah,
Wah,
wah.
wah. Yeah. Oh, how silly this day has become.
On the Enterprise, Spock and Christopher talk, and they decide to beam down with Sulu to get Kirk back. They beam down in front of some random guy. So, my notes have gotten messed up here, but they beam down in front of just like the random guy who they beamed up earlier, and he's like, "They do that all the time."
Yeah.
And then the random engineer who runs the transporter room is like, "Hey, do you want some food?" And then I think for the first time, see the replicators, and they make a bowl of
Yeah.
chicken soup for his ass, and then he eats
So
a
the-
chicken soup. I
we
don't know
have a
what the scene
replicator.
is.
We have a replicator to conjure chicken soup in the transporter room. Wouldn't that be in the mess hall, or
Nah.
is the transporter room and therefore the engine room so overworked that they need their own food replicators down there? They're not allowed to. Are they like the lower class on the Titanic? They're not allowed up to the mess hall.
Apparently not. So, but they beam down. Sulu immediately knocks a guy out, and then Spock knocks out a different guy, and then Kirk knocks out the Colonel. And it's like, oh, well, we dealt with this problem real fast, except that now we have 3 people who have seen us, whose ass we just beat.
Why couldn't we have just beamed Kirk up when he was sitting in that chair? If we're gonna operate
Impossible.
well, if who's gonna believe him anyways, kind of thing, then just take him up.
Yeah. I wonder, because they beamed up the other guy because he was holding the thing. So maybe for some reason, they couldn't tell who was who down there. You know what I mean? Maybe because the ship was like beat up from, I don't know, man. It's not
Oh.
well written. They just wanted it to be funny.
The Enterprise can't see through lead.
Yeah. Christopher holds Kirk at gunpoint.
Yeah, sudden and endless heel turn.
He's just like, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. But then Spock just gets him, and it didn't matter at all. And at this point, I'm like, what's up with this dude? He keeps flip-flopping back and forth. He's got more heel and face turns than the Big Show. I don't know what the point of this man is.
He just found out he was going to be a father, and it messes with your brain.
Apparently so. It just immediately turns you into a dickhead, I guess. On the Enterprise, they go back to the thinking room, and they're like, okay, so I figured it out. We're going to slingshot around the sun, and then we're going to do a bunch of nonsense, and then something, and then time will happen, and we'll teleport the guys back, and then we'll keep time traveling, and then we'll go to the past, and we'll put you guys back, and then you won't remember what happened, I guess. And then we will keep going forward, but we'll go really fast forward. And then we'll, instead of going back in time, we'll start going forward in time, and then we'll get back to where I don't know, man. Just, we're going to do it. Don't think about it. It'll be fine. Here we go.
Did they cover this on Mythbusters?
No, but what I did right here is we already established a way to do time travel. Why are we not doing that?
Right. Well, they kind of are, aren't they? Because the thing that when they went back into, what did they go back in time, like a minute, right?
It was like a couple, like
it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was all within like either the sun or a planet's gravitational pull, and that's essentially what they're doing. They're using
that wasn't because of a gravitational pull. They like exploded some kind of like dark matter or some shit in the engine, right? Wasn't that part of it?
I think they used that to escape, but it was the act of traversing around either the planet or the sun that launched him back a little bit.
I don't know, man.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
But if we had to do the big explosion to get fast enough to do the thing, how does just going fast at normal speed that the ship can go? Because if we can time travel by just going fast and circling around a planet, how are Starfleet motherfuckers not doing that all the time on accident?
I see what you mean.
If the answer to time travel is, what if we just go really fast? And also, how does it work? I'm going towards the sun, and so I'm going back in time. But then when I'm going away from the sun, I'm going forward in time? Why does the position of the sun have anything to do with which direction I'm moving in time?
Right. So
it doesn't. It's not. It just makes no sense, and it doesn't have to because it doesn't matter. Who cares? But
I don't have the answers for you.
It's stupid.
And I'll never have the answers for you. But what I have are two things. One of which is a fact, and the other which is just complete bullshit conjecture.
Okay.
I'll start you off with the bullshit conjecture just to get that out of the way.
Sure.
I may have made this up or seen it in a dream, but I feel someone somewhere has once said that the Star Trek time travel has some kind of scientific merit to it.
Okay.
So take that with all the salt in the world.
I disagree with whoever said that.
The fact that is undisputed is this method of time travel is our canonical method of time travel, and it's used in a movie later.
Okay.
We
so,
harken back.
So we no
to
longer
this.
have to do big explosions in the engine. We can just go fast, and then we do time travel.
Listen,
you hit gear 5 on your engine, and it just like, and now I'm in the 60s.
I do not remember the point of the big explosion. I could have sworn it was less about we need to go fast and more we need to break being stuck in the gravitational pull of whatever the hell.
But like,
we would have to either go back and watch whatever episode that was or listen back to our own podcast. We are going to do neither.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So at this point, it is in someone else's hands to leave a comment and tell us how fucking stupid we are.
Either way, this version of time travel makes no sense and I hate it. Is basically where I'm landing on this. This is stupid.
Right,
this is incredibly stupid.
Would you rank it above or below a DeLorean with the
way below, so far below.
Above or below whatever they did in Avengers Endgame.
Also way below.
Above or below. Oh god, what else is there?
The hot tub.
Hot tub time machine.
Below.
Below the time machine hot tub.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Spock thought of this. You can't say Spock's crazy.
Look, man, in both Avengers and Back to the Future, we had to have a specific device that is like doing the science of the time travel. We had to build a time machine. In this, we go real fast.
Oh, okay. The sun's not enough for you.
We just go real fast, and if we go really fast and then we turn, then we go back in time. That's what this boils down to.
Yeah, but they're really good at it, though.
I don't know, man. It doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. All we have to do is accept that that's how it works in this universe. But what I'm saying is, it's very stupid.
It's gonna matter because we're gonna do it again, and you're gonna get mad at it again.
I won't get mad at it. Well, maybe. No, I will. I'm already mad at it again. Also, I wrote in this scene, they're talking about how to do this, and I'm like, why the hell is Chris not in handcuffs?
Yeah, why we forgave him very fast for pulling a gun on our captain.
He has knocked out one of our crew members and pulled a gun on the captain. Mm-hmm. Why is he just chilling? Why is he part of the team?
Maybe he's just not mentally sound.
We gotta get this dude off the ship one way or another. Yeah. I'd space his ass, frankly.
Frankly.
So they start going towards the sun, and so time rolls backwards, and then Kirk makes a joke about how he only has 15 years to get to the transporter room, and I was like, that's cute. That's a good bit. Then they slingshot around, and they put I don't know, man. They do the thing that they said they were gonna do. They slingshot, and I wrote the acting on the crew is pretty good. I like that they all like threw themselves around, looked good. There were some flashing lights. Man, it was a good little effect.
They really tumble when they need to, don't they?
I really like that.
It makes you like think, like, did they have some sort of way to shift the set? And you know for a fact the answer is no.
They sure didn't. There's no way.
Not yet, anyways. I think maybe future sets will have some of that. But this one, just someone behind the camera yells, "To the left!" And they all just like jump all out of their chairs. And the way that they time it with the camera moving and shaking as well, and it looks good.
It looks real good. They send the guys back, and Christopher thanks them. He's like, "Thanks for this," but then they put him back in in his airplane before it gets exploded, and he seemingly doesn't remember anything. And I'm like, I also don't understand why the time travel has erased this man's memory.
Yeah, that confused me.
It just had to, I guess, to make sense.
Slingshotting around the sun, I'm willing to accept we went back in time, so you forgot back in time, but only you, because you lost.
But also, but then maybe we went back and now this thing didn't happen anymore because he didn't get abducted, so we didn't have to go down. So now the people who were down on the planet didn't actually get knocked out, so they don't have to remember that Sulu karate chopped them or whatever. I don't know, man. There's a lot of it. Don't matter. I didn't like this episode. Spoilers.
And then they
do the same thing for the random chicken soup guard.
Yeah.
And then the Enterprise shakes really hard when they try to go into reverse to stop time traveling, and then we're done. That's it. That's the end of the thing, basically. Kirk gets a call from Earth, and the ship calls him dear again because the computer's still horny. Remember that? And then Uhura laughs, and then they're like, "We're home, baby," and that's the it's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Dude, I hated this
Yeah.
episode. Actually, I think the more I think about it,
Okay.
I think this
Okay.
one kind of sucked ass.
Okay. Interesting.
I like the concept of it, where it's like we're back in the '60s, and like I like that we had presumably that was just like stock photos or stock footage of some plane taking off or whatever. But there were aspects of it where I was like, this is neat and it's different. And then the further we got into it, I was like, this is stupid. I don't like the weird comedy bits where he's like looking at the camera and being like, 200 years, that's about right. I don't like,
Yeah.
no one acted professional in this. They're like immediately dropping all of the information about what Starfleet is to these guys who don't need to know shit about anything. We're like super inconsistent on John Christopher and whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. He keeps flip-flopping back and forth. Spock forgot to Google whether or not the guy's kids would be important when he was trying to figure out if he was important. And it's like, I don't know, man. There's just so much about this episode where I'm just like, yeah, this was just one that we just needed to get to 30 for the season, and this was what we had.
I think that quote-unquote black star that they came too close to messed with everyone's brainwaves a little bit.
A little bit. So yeah, I'm giving this one an illogical because I think I'm just like, the more I think about it,
hating it.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, you know what, this one was kind of fun, and then the more we talked about it, I was like, this was really stupid.
It is really stupid. Yeah, okay, Arena I gave a just barely and Engage. I'm gonna give this one the opposite side of the fence, the illogical.
Yeah,
I don't hate it. I think, there's fun stuff that I like, there's cute stuff, but there's just a lot of why is this happening?
Yeah.
So many weird things. And I think honestly, look, I'm down with the time travel. You don't believe in it? I believe in it. I'm going to believe in it enough for the both of us.
Okay.
I accept
Someone's got
the
to.
Star Trek time, the memory forgetting and the transporting back to the exact moment where you were transported away, and somehow that closes the loop. I guess it's all weird. The horny computer crosses over the line. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this episode.
I gotta get out of here.
And yeah, I'm packing up my stuff, and we'll see you next time. This is an illogical. I don't hate this episode, but it's really stupid.
I said I hate this episode. I don't actually, but it's really dumb. This is one where I'm just like, what happened? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I was confused for a good portion of this episode, and not in a fun way. Ugh. Well, if you guys think that this is actually one of the best episodes in Star Trek, and I'd love to hear that argument, please let us know in the comments below wherever you're listening to this. You can follow the show on Twitter at @RSR_POD. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Daniel J. McGee.
You can follow me on Blue Sky at Skyler8bit.
And until next time, everybody, let's see what's out there. Oh, my voice cracked. Oh no, it's all over. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here.
The game's just starting, the world's so bright. Jump right in, everything feels right. Let's play, take a trip back in time where pixels and